All right, so take us from the beginning, Thomas. How did it go down? What were you doing that got you arrested in Russia? I'm victim blaming right off the bat.
What a question. What a question. My original sin, what got me arrested, was the crime of being in the border area of Russia. Russia has lots of these little arbitrary laws that you're not going to know of as a foreigner. And one of those, which I did not know at the time, was you cannot be within 20 kilometers of a border in Russia without some kind of special permit if you're a foreigner. Not all the borders, apparently, because, I mean, you have to be near a border to get into the country if you're crossing by land. But some of the borders, especially the ones where they have bridges or sensitive sites, apparently. So anyway, this was in a place in Russia called the Jewish Oblast, which has kind of an interesting history. Like, the Soviets wanted to create this state for the Jewish people. They wanted to create the original Israel in Russia. And they gave them some of the worst land in the country. And they're just like, let's send all the Jews there.
Oh, my God. When was this?
This was in the 1930s.
Oh, wow.
And I think it lasted for about a year before the Soviets changed their mind. And they were just like, let's use this to oppress the Jews instead.
Oh, my God.
So let's just pick them off from there.
It was convenient zone, sectioned off.
Exactly. Now we know where all the Jews are. We've
God.
cornered them off.
Oh, no.
So this was the original reason, though, why I went to this area. I mean, it's a pretty wild history. I wanted to explore it a bit.
Where is it? Like you said, Far East?
Far Eastern Russia. Yeah, I mean, Russia is really big. I think everyone knows that. Stretches from Europe, near the not the Balkans, the Baltics, all the way over to North Korea, and then eventually even near America. This was just above the far northeastern corner of China. So, really over there. And I wanted to go, and this was actually supposed to just be like a little stop. I was going to do it in a day. I was trying to get to Vladivostok, which is like the last big city in Russia before you reach the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah.
And, stopped here in the Jewish Oblast, hired a taxi driver to take me around, to go to some of the towns. They used to be like these little, I guess almost like kibbutzes that the Jews had built. There's no trace of them being there now, but you still have like the town names that sound kind of Jewish. And then eventually we get to this town on the Chinese border called Leninskoye. And it's got like these big Lenin statues, and it's kind of a shithole, I'm not going to lie, but it's a town and it's on the Chinese border. My taxi driver suggests, fatefully, hey, there's this cool bridge that connects Russia to China. Do you want to go see it? And, I mean, I was a little skeptical. I was like, are we allowed to go there? And he said, oh, yes. I take people there all the time. So we went over there.
There probably is sex slaves and North Korean underage girls and...
Yeah.
Who the fuck knows what goes on there?
Yeah,
dude?
they have weapons, all kinds of things.
Now that you're not going back to Russia, you can just spill all the beans on...
Right. I could just go off.
Let it rip, dude.
Hopefully I won't get Novichoked somewhere in the world. But so we get to this bridge area. It's actually also like a port. There's signs only in Chinese and Russian talking about you need to have like documentation, whatever, blah, 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 which did not register in my head fast enough. Very quickly after that, some Russian police, I believe they're like migratory police or something like that, start showing up. And you can imagine how I felt at this moment. It's extremely, extremely scary. They had like those big Russian hats on, like fur hats that you see in the movies. This is what like Russian police wear.
Just like the movies. It's just like the movies.
Yeah.
They're like Bond villains.
I also had that surreal feeling, like I'm in a movie right now, but it's a shitty movie. It's so they come up and they explain to me that you're not allowed to be in this area. What are you doing here? Blah, blah, blah. I immediately try to explain I'm a YouTuber. I'm just making a video. And then the problem is one of them had like a body cam on. I mean, In America, the police were forced to wear body cams to make sure they're not doing anything bad.
Mm-hmm.
In Russia, they were forced to wear body cams to make sure they're doing something bad. And kind of, yeah.
Damn.
So basically, I get picked up, and at first, it almost seems like it's not going to be a big deal because we arrive at this migratory police station, and they asked me, "Oh, would you like a translator? We can have that come over." So this girl who speaks English, I think she was like a local English teacher, she comes and starts explaining what the guy is saying. My Russian is not bad, but it's not good enough to like understand shit like this.
Yeah, it's not like legal.
Yeah, legal
Level.
language is pretty hard. Anyway, the girl starts laughing and she's like, "Oh, don't worry. The maximum penalty for this is just $5. You know, it's a $5 fine. Don't worry. You're going to be out of here soon." So I almost start getting relaxed, but
Wait, was this girl a legal scholar, or was she just spoke English and was translating?
she was the interpreter.
Okay.
Whenever they arrest a foreigner in Russia, they apparently have a law where an interpreter must be there to explain everything.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, I thought this wasn't going to be so bad, but the problem was I didn't have my passport on me.
Fuck, Tommy. Never bring that passport to the house, do you?
It's just as inconvenient, you know. It gets crumpled.
You're like, it's my hotel. Let's go back together. You can go through all my stuff.
Right. Have had this experience before. Anyway, yeah. So that was a big issue because I left the passport in the main city of the Jewish Oblast, which is called Bijan, which will come up shortly. It was like a Russian Airbnb that I left it in. And so we start off with them saying like, "Oh yeah, you're going to be out of here quick." And then this officer who brought me in, he takes a call. A little bit later, he says, "Are you going to have to stay here overnight?" And this is where things, start to get shitty.
What did they say they took you in for? Did they explain before they like took you in the car? Were they like, "Oh, you're not allowed to be here. You're supposed to have a permit"?
They did explain. They did. It was this crime of being in a border area, within 20 kilometers of the border, without documentation. Which just, again, you're not really going to know about that when you're there.
But did they seem intimidating when they took you in, or were they just like, "Oh yeah, it's no big deal. We'll sort this out at the station"? Like,
these guys honestly weren't too bad. There was even one guy who was like, "Don't worry, it's going to be okay." Although I later learned when Russian police say this, it means that things are not going to be okay. But they might just be trying to defuse the situation.
damn. Or like get you to be more docile or something.
Yeah.
Damn.
So this is what I was originally brought in for, and they told me you're gonna have to stay overnight. You're just gonna stay at the police station. It's fine. They made it sound like I'm gonna be sleeping on some guy's couch at the police station.
Yeah.
I asked like, "Am I going to jail?" And they said, "No, it's not a jail." But of course, they bring me eventually over, and they put me in a cell. Very new experience. Haven't had that happen before. And they take my phone. They take, everything I had on me, the camera. And I'm just waiting there. And about 2 hours later, the FSB shows up.
KGB?
The new version of the KGB. And this is where things start to get intense because the KGB, the FSB officer, same thing, brought a camera. Actually had like another guy whose only job was just to stand there and film me. And they did like this kind of interrogation, which, I mean, if this wasn't so serious, it was almost funny in some ways because they start off with a line of questioning that is clearly trying to suss out if I'm an American spy. They're asking why I was there, blah, 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 what my real job is. And
Can't be YouTuber. That's not a job.
right. And I tried to bring up how I'm very far from like a jingoistic American. I've made videos in the U.S. criticizing all the problems we have there, and I invited them to go look at that.
Right.
And maybe some of that got to them because then they started a different line of questioning. They're trying to see if I was a Chinese spy because they knew that I spoke some Chinese and I wanted to go see the border with China, and they just kept hammering me over and over again.
What were they asking you?
They were asking me, they started off with a line of questioning about whether I was a spy, trying to suss that out. They were asking things like, what's your real job?
Right.
What were you doing at the bridge? It's very weird.
Was it like a footbridge or was it an open border or was it like a closed kind of just for trading?
It's just for trading.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
Doesn't look too good.
No, yeah. It was tricky.
Yeah.
But it's not like this bridge was a secret. Later I found out that this has been on Russian television. It's been on Chinese television. It's just, in the end, it was all an excuse.
Yeah.
This guy who was interrogating me, this guy would be he would be leading the charge in trying to ruin my life through this whole process. So after they got done with the line of questioning, trying to figure out if I'm a CIA spy and then later a Chinese spy, eventually I get told that tomorrow we're going to bring you for a drug test because we're worried about your health. This would be the first of multiple drug tests that they would give me.
They're so benevolent. They just want to make sure you're okay.
They were wonderful, yes.
Let you sleep on their couch, drug test you for your own good.
They always phrase things in the most adorable way.
Damn. That makes it even more sinister because if you know what they're after, you're like,
right.
Wait a second.
Right. And then because of that drug test, they told me I'd have to spend a whole other day in the jail or the police jail, whatever you want to call it. So that's what we did the next day. They gave me a drug test. Very horrifyingly, it threw a false positive saying I was on meth. Which
I could see it. I could see you doing meth.
Right.
You have the look,
I mean, I do a lot of editing. It was. Right. I almost questioned it myself. I'm did I sneak some in there at some point?
That last night out with Igor, we did get pretty crazy. What happened?
Right. I mean, but on a more serious note, I mean, I do take the quote unquote nootropics sometimes, like modafinil. And I didn't actually know what was in modafinil. So I was like, there can't be meth in modafinil, could there be? But you just don't know. And they just let you think that you have drugs in your system, and which would lead to a mandatory minimum 2-week jail sentence. So that was shitty.
What was your sleeping situation like when you were in the police station? Was it just like one single cell or were you with other people?
In that police station, it was just a tiny, thin cell. The cell was literally maybe the size of this couch to the wall.
Damn.
It was very tiny. It
was just you?
It was just me, yeah. There was, I think, maybe 3 other cells in the police station.
Damn.
And they're all in there talking like, oh, there's an American here. What is he doing here? He must be a spy. Just hearing this shit, like, down the jail, and, like, my Russian wasn't good enough to like counter this properly, so I'm just like, I'm not gonna even talk.
Fuck, dude.
Yeah.
So they were trying to like throw you under the bus and like make themselves look better, I'm sure. They're like, I just did a little drunk driving. I just did a little domestic abuse. This is a fucking spy. That's the guy you got to worry about.
Basically.
Damn.
Yeah.
Where were you eating?
They do give you minimal amounts of food. Like we're talking like a meal could be just like a piece of bread. Or like one hard-boiled egg. Or
damn, Soviet rations, dude.
Yeah. I mean, they could barely clothe their military, so imagine what they're giving to their prisoners. You don't get like a prison jumpsuit. You just wear the clothes that you have. And,
oh my god.
So I actually wore these jeans in prison.
You gotta burn them now, dude. You gotta burn.
I haven't bought some new ones yet. I am kind of cheap. All right, so. This all started on Friday. Saturday, I had to stay again in the jail. Sunday, the migratory police officer, the one who originally brought me in, and the interpreter show up, and they tell me, good news, Tommy, you're free. It's all over. And I'm already like practically crying. I'm just
Mm.
like, Jesus Christ, thank God.
Mm.
I just had to go pay this $5 fine. Um, and once I did that, they said, you're good. Just, this is where things get messed up. I mean, they're already messed up. Here's where they get really messed up. They told me, okay, we just need you to go back and get your passport, which again, I had left in this main city of the region, Birobidzhan.
Mm-hmm.
And so they said, all right, we got this taxi for you. Just get in the taxi. It's going to take you right to where that apartment was with your passport. You get that. Don't film anything on the way. Don't make any detours. And you're good. You can go home. I said, okay. Get in this taxi. I can immediately tell it's kind of weird. The driver is not looking at me. The driver is not communicating with me. There's a mysterious lady in the back seat. And the driver has angled the windshield, the rear view mirror, sorry, so that I can't see who's behind me. And then we just drive for 2 hours to get back to the main city.
Holy shit.
And the driver already knew the address and everything. And they're already going there. And as soon as we arrive where the apartment was, there's just a police ambush waiting.
Oh my God.
And it's these FSB fuckers. They set up a fake crime. They have me get out. They claim that I did not show my passport because I knew the passport was in the apartment and I couldn't do it. They said I did not give my name or anything. And it was just all a bunch of nonsense. They grab me, they take me into the police station there, which is much larger. And then they say, Tommy, we're here to talk about what you've been posting on YouTube.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
This is terrifying.
It's pretty messed up.
Like my heart is racing.
Yeah.
Sounds like a weird like nightmare.
Yeah. It's the scariest moment of my life, honestly. This experience overall.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. I'll be trying to tell this in as many places as I can, just to give people a warning. But anyway, so at this station, they claimed that I was just gonna have to go to court about my YouTube video because in the video description, and again, my videos about Russia were very friendly to Russia. I went out of my way to just not talk about politics that much. I made Russians look good. I humanized the nation. So for me to be brought in because of my videos was just completely ridiculous. But they say that because I used the word invasion in my description, they said that was offending the Russian forces or some nonsense like that. So I had to give a statement on that. And then they said, no, we need you to stay in the jail here in the police station overnight. Your court date is tomorrow. So again, I'm in the little police station jail. And then immediately the next morning, there's a trial. We get to the trial. I'm brought to the trial, but this is not a real trial. This is not a fair trial. As soon as the trial starts, I have this interpreter. The interpreter was at the crime scene the previous day. She was helping the police.
Oh my God.
This is my interpreter. And
Oh my God.
the trial starts.
Oh my God.
And the judge says, I am here for the crime of refusing the orders of the police. And that carries a sentence of 2 weeks in jail, 15 days. And just immediately, I swear the trial lasted about 2 minutes. They said, guilty, you're going to jail. And then
Oh my God.
right after that, at some point, they never made it clear to me that I could get a lawyer or anything. Apparently that was possible. Probably wouldn't have helped. This was all a sham trial.
Damn.
And then they follow up with the YouTube charges. And they say...
Charges.
Right. I immediately asked, what is the maximum penalty for this? And they said $500 fine. And I almost breathed a sigh of relief. At this point, I'm starting to worry, am I going to be here for years? Because it dawned on me that they had just set up a fake crime to put me in jail. Can't think of a more horrifying situation than that.
Oh my God.
So I immediately get charged with those two things. evading the police or whatever the hell they said. And using the word invasion in my description, because
Wow.
the only way to refer to what Russia is doing to Ukraine is liberating them, or some other nonsense.
Wow.
And
So unless you're like actively making propaganda for them, they're like, oh, that's illegal.
pretty much, which is why the only Americans you still see in Russia are just complete hacks. Just they've sold their soul. Maybe. I like to say, looking at most of them, they probably couldn't get laid in America, and they had to go to Russia to find a woman. Russian women, I mean, they're very beautiful, very welcoming. And then they start doing propaganda to stay in Russia. They probably have no other skills.
Holy shit, man! So it's bad. It's as bad as people say. Like this sounds like a kangaroo court, like dictatorship, fascist, like, police state, everything. All like the worst nightmares coming true.
And it's so fucked up that they did this to me, because I didn't want to believe this. I didn't go into Russia to make like anti-Russia videos. I wasn't trying to be that guy. I mean, in my heart, I guess I always supported Ukraine, but I never made that public. And if I'm being honest, I lived in China. Like China's issues and whatever was always more important to me than what was going on in Eastern Europe. Anyway, I was forced to think about this and forced to care about this.
Yeah.
Because then I'm thrown into jail. And I'm not going to lie, like when I'm first brought to this jail, it's more like a proper prison. Like I'm scared as fuck. It's just like, I'm like, if they could do that, they could poison me. They could, plant drugs in my luggage. So I started to get paranoid. I was like, where's my luggage? Where's my passport? Blah, blah, blah. And this led to the single scariest moment. Because, like, there's this one, like, CEO, like, corrections officer. She's, like, this Russian lady. And she's acting kind of nice. She says, I speak a little bit of English, blah, blah. And, at this point, I'm just looking for anyone to talk to. So I'm like, hey, I'm really worried about this. I don't know where my luggage is. Can you please tell them to bring it? I'm really worried. I think those police are evil. They're going to put stuff in that. I don't trust them. This was a bad idea. I also said that I didn't feel well. I wanted to see a doctor. And at some point, maybe like a few hours later, the CEOs like open the cell. We could talk about the layout of the prison in a second if you want. They open the cell, and they say, hey, you got someone here to see you. So they lead me down back to the entrance of the prison, and I open this door, and I'm immediately grabbed by like 4 FSB officers. And I'm thrown into like this unmarked police car. And the original FSB guy who did the interrogation, he's there. And he just says to me, Tommy, I've heard you've been talking about me. We don't want something to happen to you. And they just don't tell me where they're going. We're just driving off into the darkness. And I literally thought I'm going to die. It's fucking nuts.
Holy shit.
It turned out what they were doing was they were taking me to get drug tested again. Although they didn't tell me that until we got there. We got to this very shady looking hospital. And this was also really, really scary because, this might be the most hardcore interview you've done so far, Mr. Small Brain American.
This is like hell. It's like you were living in hell. Like I can't imagine like a scarier situation.
Yeah. No, I was scared to death. And, but somehow I do manage to be courageous in these situations. I don't know where I get it from, but so they take me into this place and they're like, we need you to get drug tested again. And I can't trust this. I think like this is going to be a fake drug test. They just want me to do this and they're going to claim there's weed in there or meth or something. So I said, at first I refused. I said, I want a lawyer. But then they threatened saying like, if you refuse this, then you're refusing the police again. You're going to end up in jail for another 15 days.
Oh my God.
It's just, so I said, okay, I'll do it, but I want to see the whole process. And I had 2 FSB officers watching me take a piss. Russian police really liked looking at my penis for some reason.
Oh, goodness.
And I get this piss into a cup. They test it, and thank God it just said clean. They waited a long time before telling me that. And once I found out that was clean, and I signed the document saying it was clean, I finally relaxed just a tiny bit. I was like, okay, if this wasn't corrupt, maybe there's a chance that I can survive like this whole ordeal. But, and then it went on for another 15 days.
What was your plan when they were like, when you were like, oh, I want to see the process? Like, I mean, you don't know anything about drug testing, do you?
Right. I know like, that it involves like pissing in a cup or.
Like, what was you were like, oh no, you're not leaving the pH indicator in there long enough.
Right,
like,
right, exactly. I want to see those strips going in.
Damn, dude.
To be honest, yeah, like I didn't know.
It's crazy because I mean, you're telling me this story, and like in my head, I'm imagining like this like DC comic, like Gotham City, like underworld, seedy cops and crooked judges, and it's all like real in my head now. Like the boogeyman is real. It sounds like.
I mean, I feel like in America we've heard this kind of stuff about Russia, but I thought it was just like fairy tales and stuff. I thought it was I thought maybe they left those days behind. But no, Russia really is like this. It's like an alternate universe to like what we grew up with in America and Europe, if you're from there.
Holy shit. Yeah, it's funny because you're telling me about like the court case and everything, and I'm, you're like, oh yeah, this was fixed and this was fixed and this was fixed, and like my Western brain can't even wrap my mind around that. Like, oh, they can just do whatever the fuck they want. Like it's like we have so much freedom actually compared to. I mean, this is like hell, man. That's
Yeah, no, this made me appreciate America way more. Even with all, like, the problems, the addicts, walking around the cities, I'll take that a million times over what I saw in Russia. Like, believe me.
Holy shit, man.
Because I also learned where all of Russia's drug addicts and homeless people are going. They're going into the same prison that I was in. Like, I was just surrounded by homeless people with mental issues. People that took drugs, like they might have just smoked weed like once, and then they were in there for like 15 days.
Oh my god.
I had a cellmate for like a week, and he was in prison. He was sent to prison for 6 years because he grew one marijuana plant in his house just to smoke by himself. And Russia decided he must be selling it, so he's an enemy of the state.
Oh my goodness.
This is, these are the kind of things you got to think about when you're upset with what's going on in America.
So what did you do after you pissed in the cup and they're like, oh yeah, you're good? Like, were you like, oh, I'm scot-free. I'm just going to be like, what, 5 more days and I'm out of here? Like,
right.
What did you think?
I thought I just had to cling on to the hope that, okay, if they didn't corrupt this process, then I'm pretty sure I don't have anything that's illegal in my luggage or anything.
Yeah.
I should be able to just do this 15-day sentence and leave. That's what I hoped. And over the next couple of days, they would come back with something new, like every day. There was a day where they did finally bring my luggage to the prison. And then right after that, like 6... I swear, there was like 6 officers show up. They make this huge, big deal of it. They brought an interpreter for this also. They all show up at the prison. They have me take the medicine out of my luggage. We're talking like, Tylenol, stuff like this. But some of it came from like China or like different countries. So they said, oh, this could be drugs, blah, blah, blah. You might be hiding something in there. Yeah. And they had us take like a big picture, like they had just caught like a big drug kingpin or something. And even at that moment, I'm scared to death. My heart is literally about to pump out of my chest. I thought the whole thing was ridiculous. So like, the Russian officers all had like this solemn look on their face, like oh, we just caught a criminal. Yeah. I just did like this big thumbs up and everything.
You
like,
did?
Yeah.
Dude, we got to find the picture. We got to find it.
I don't know if I could request that photo, but...
Well, do you think they posted it like on their Facebook or Russian social media or something? Or
maybe not, because eventually I was cleared of that also. But obviously, like, if I hadn't been, that would be all over the Russian news. That's what they were intending for. You know, they wanted to put that on and be like, look, we found a American drug trafficker. We're protecting the public.
Why do you think they like? What do you think their real like purpose was in arresting you?
I figured that out later.
Okay, I'm sorry if I'm skipping ahead. You can keep going chronologically, but
Right, right. No, we can mention that. It's they wanted time to investigate whether I was a spy or a drug trafficker. I think ideally they wanted me to be a spy. Another really horrifying moment, which happened later after I managed to get a lawyer with the help of my family and friends. The lawyer told me that the penalty for being found guilty of a spy is 10 to 20 years in prison, which just imagine that. You know, I knew I wasn't a spy, but just having that in the back of my head, you know, the whole time, thinking like at best I could become like a political prisoner.
right.
I could be there for like 2 years, 6 years. I think that guy Paul Whelan was there for like 6 years.
Holy shit! Eating what? Boiled eggs and like stale bread and.
Right, right, yeah, just minimal amounts of food every day.
God damn, bro.
The Russian prison it's not like American prison, which is probably a good thing and a bad thing in the sense that I feel like in American prison, your biggest fear is the other prisoners. You know, like, again, I haven't been there, but I've watched prison shows. And, you know, everybody separates into gangs and stuff. In Russia, you have minimal contact with the other prisoners. It's more they try to psychologically torture you. You know, it's like there's a light on in the cell that never goes off. There's just noise constantly from like a TV and just like a speaker. It is like the toilet is just the hole in the ground, which is in your cell.
Fuck. So it just stinks.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the cellmate I had, he again because he had been in prison for like 6 years, he knew like all the tips and tricks to like help make the experience a little bit better. He was like, you know, if you load up the water in the hole for a little while, it reduces the smell. I was like, okay.
Damn.
He was like my Jedi master from prison, pretty much.
Did you guys become close in there, or?
Yeah, I'd say we became friends. We added WhatsApp afterward. And
Wait, they let him use his phone?
No, we had to like write it down. And then
They're like, if you ever get out one day, like text me. Like...
exactly. He offered to help find me a lawyer if like my family and everybody else couldn't do it, which we ended up doing before he got out. So no, he's a pretty nice guy. I was a little worried he might have been schizophrenic because he said that he didn't like to sleep, you know, with just silence. You know, he wanted to have the radio on. So as if there wasn't enough noise going on. He wanted to have the radio because there's like a speaker for the radio and you can request to have it on in the room. And,
wow.
Yeah. So
How did you feel about that?
I tried to mention it'd be really hard for me to sleep. And I realized this could potentially lead to a fight if I pressed on it. And I'm like, whatever.
Did he seem like the aggressive type that he would?
No, but just, you know, you never know. He didn't seem like a particularly bad person, but, you know, if he had some kind of mental issue, you know, you never know what could happen.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just dealt with that. And eventually, after the FSB kept showing up day after day to take something new, there was like a 10, 12-day period, about 10 days, where nothing happened. I was just in the prison. And every day in the prison there is basically the same. You wake up, you're given phone time, and that's for 15 minutes maximum. So every day at 8 a.m. and also 8 p.m., a bunch of people break into your cell. They're like the CEOs, and they go and like make sure you're not hiding anything, make sure you're not trying to escape. And then they also ask you, what would you like to do? Would you like to use your phone? Would you like to go exercise? Exercising, by the way, there's no yard like in American prisons. There's just this, they have like these cages outside. It's just like you're behind a fence that they lock. And it's just like, again, it's like a really tiny area. It's about,
Oh my god, dude. This is
like
a lot.
10 by 10 square feet. Yeah.
Holy shit. I can see why you put off talking about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, you know, I've been asking you, or not for a long time, but I've brought it up several times. You're like, I'm not sure I'm quite ready, and this is,
Yeah.
I see why.
Thankfully, I've had time to process it. And I'm also really lucky that I don't have a brain prone to PTSD, I think. Because, yeah, I started having nightmares for like the first time, like during this experience. I'm not really prone to stuff like that. But, you know, it's like even the day after I left, you know, it didn't seem real that I was out. You know, it felt like somehow I had cheated fate, you know. Like you just keep thinking about how much worse this all could have been. You know, they wanted me there for like, you know, at the very least, like 6 years for drugs or 10 years for being a spy or stuff like that.
Jesus.
And,
yeah, the stakes are so high.
And you're just like lying there with all this time on your hands, imagining like what you're going to do. But I can't imagine like a worse fate than just, you know, being in prison, completely innocent, just for like this long term. Yeah,
Damn.
it's rough.
Did you tell the guards like, oh, I'm innocent, I'm innocent? Did you ever plead your case to like?
I had to learn the word in Russian for that first. I didn't get a Russian dictionary until like about 8 days in. So once I did, though, that is one of the first words I learned.
You go right to the eyes. You're like,
I learned a lot of Russian legal vocabulary. I learned that I'm innocent. I want a lawyer. Please leave me alone.
Oh my god.
Handcuffs. I learned that.
Oh my god.
Just all this stuff that I haven't even learned in some of the languages I speak well. And,
wow, dude.
Yeah. I mean, that was one of the only things I had to do was just learn Russian.
Yeah.
I had to learn it the old-fashioned way from a dictionary.
Yeah, in a prison the old-fashioned way. With Igor.
Exactly. Just get to talk to these CEOs who are not particularly friendly.
Holy shit.
I mean, a few of them were funny. Like, they found out that I was, like, a YouTuber, and they privately asked, like, for my YouTube channel. I had to write it on a piece of paper, because even they couldn't use their phones in the prison. So
wow.
They had to, like, go look it up later.
So did they let all the prisoners use their phones? It was either yard time or phone time?
You got to do both, like, every morning. But you had to make sure to tell the CEOs during that, like, morning checkup that you wanted to do that. Or else, if you didn't do that, they would just say, oh, you missed your chance.
And they're going through your phones, right? Like, they're checking your messages and checking what you're doing, or?
They're not doing that. The CEOs are not doing that. But the FSB can come and, like, take it. And that was another big fear. Just, right. I had to, like, continue talking almost in code with, like, my own family and everything. Yeah. Being like, guys, yeah, please don't say anything sensitive.
Well, no, I remember you were messaging me. You're like, hey, I'm not going to make it to Japan. Like, I'm in prison. I was like,
right.
What a guy for texting me that you're going to miss the plans because you're in prison. I would expect you to call the embassy or know, email important people, not
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. You might have been like 12th down the list, but did want to message you.
But I remember we were talking and I would be like, I remember I asked you, I was like, why did they arrest you? Like, why are they giving you phone time? Do they want you to like broker a deal with like higher ups in the U.S. government? Or like my mind immediately went to like conspiracies and like corruption and all this stuff. And I was like, why are they giving you your phone? And you just said, they let me have my phone for 15 minutes every day. That's all you said.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, oh. And I said, that's very nice of them.
Yeah, I remember that part. Yeah. It's a blur of like what I was saying because I was just like typing rapidly to all these different people at once.
Yeah.
But yes, it was very kind of them. Actually, that ended up being kind of a good sign because like my family and friends were communicating with the U.S. Embassy while I was in prison, and they told them that like, hey, he gets to use his phone 15 minutes a day. And one of the only good things that the U.S. Embassy did was they apparently had knowledge of like other cases, like the big ones like Brittany Griner, the Wall Street Journal guy. And they said that if he's getting to use his phone, that's a good sign because those two didn't get to use their phone. They wanted to keep them as like a political prisoner, and it was like very clear from the beginning. So the embassy did not know that they were continuously trying to find new crimes for me, which is horrifying. You know, you're just like an innocent person, and they're trying to find crimes for you, and you feel like they're never going to stop. Yeah. But presuming I did not have drugs on me, I did not, transfer sensitive data on my laptop to like the American government or something, I should be free. And that's what they said. And eventually I was free, although, it was very nerve wracking until the very end.
Shit. Well, before we get to that, I wanted to ask, like, what did you... I mean, they didn't really think you were a spy, did they? Or were they just targeting you because you're an American and that would look good for their bosses? Like,
my theory was, again, there's this one guy who did the initial interrogation. And this guy is like, he's not that old. He's like maybe 25, 26 or something. And my theory is this guy was just like really gung-ho. He's like, I want to arrest an American. And I want to arrest an American spy. And I'm sure if that guy had done that, if I actually was a spy, that would like make his career,
Yeah.
He'd become somebody big. And I don't use this word lightly, but I feel like this guy was just evil because, it didn't matter to him that I was innocent. He just, if he could find anything, he would do it in order to put me in prison. Like he did not care about what my side of the story was.
Wow.
And I could tell that. Some other officers, at one point, they told me like, hey, I watched your videos actually. I know you're not a spy, but unfortunately these other guys do. So apparently there was like this divide, I guess, between the officers. So,
but it was just the COs that thought that. But like
no, this was an actual FSB officer that told me at one point. So some of the FSB were apparently intelligent enough to realize that, hey, a guy with a 700,000 subscriber YouTube channel is probably not a CIA spy.
Yeah.
But especially looking at some of the videos.
Yeah.
Some of the crazy shit.
Although it would be a good cover. It would be a great
it would
cover.
definitely be a good cover. But I feel like I don't think the CIA would be able to do that. Come on now.
Yeah.
I got to give myself a little credit here.
Fuck, dude.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. What did your mom think? Like, what was that call like when you first were like, hey, Mom? Because you texted me and my heart dropped. And I told Sarah, and she didn't even know you. And she was like terrified. She's like, oh, my God, is he okay? Can we call someone? I can't even imagine your mom. Like,
that's nice of her.
What did you...
So actually, when I was first getting brought in at the very beginning with the border stuff, I didn't call my family. Or I didn't tell my family because I just hoped that it would all be over quickly. When I'm doing these trips, my main mission is never to worry my family. I want them to be at peace of mind. They do worry about me. I've gone to some questionable places for sure during my travels. But then it was actually my friends that went and told my brother and my sister. And then they got involved. And everyone hesitated to tell my mother. And I don't know, she had a weirdly calm reaction. She clearly wasn't happy. She almost had a kind of I told you so kind of attitude because she kept telling me not to go to Russia. But, she kept telling me she was praying for me. And she was very worried and whatnot.
Yeah, fuck. So she didn't like spaz out? Did she cry? Like, did she... Did you call her when you did it, or you just texted her?
Yeah, I called her. I mean, the messed up thing was I only had time to call maybe one person a day because I had other stuff to do. I was trying to set up like a lawyer and all this stuff. And yeah, I don't know if she did. She probably did at some point.
So you didn't call her? You just like through the
No,
grapevine?
I did call her. Yeah. She didn't cry on the call.
So she was like all business, like, all right, let's figure this out.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I can admit that I cried on some of these calls, hearing like my sister's voice, all these people I'm worried like I'll never see again.
Oh my God.
Or like for years. Yeah. You just like,
shit,
you can't prepare for a situation like this.
This is real shit.
I never thought I'd be in a situation like this. Like you don't prepare to go to prison. Like you don't know how to like find a lawyer and like all this stuff.
Yeah.
My only preparation was like probably the same preparation you had, just like watching TV shows, like Law and Order or some bullshit.
I want my phone call, and they're like,
right,
this is Russia. Like you don't get a fucking
yeah. And I was forced to learn how this stuff works in Russia, because the one good thing that I eventually figured out with the help of the lawyer was there is some semblance of a rule of law in the country, and so they don't want to plant drugs on someone. They want to actually find drugs. They want to have like a
Oh.
real reason. But there's a system, but they were abusing the system. You know, like making that fake crime where I didn't show my passport. They wanted to use that time to find like a real crime. They wanted to find a real American criminal.
Hmm.
So, and then I realized you could even like appeal this stuff with the help of a lawyer. Um, and I started doing that once he showed up, who is a very brave man, by the way. He told me that most of the lawyers would not take this case because they'd be afraid of the police. This guy had kind of a zero fucks attitude. It's
Really?
kind of funny.
How'd you find him?
Um,
Well, let me make sure this is
Eventually,
still recording. Always so apparent. Oh, perfect. Okay.
the U.S. Embassy, who again, were not super helpful, but eventually somebody there sent a list of like 3 lawyers in the area, and they listed on one of them, this guy speaks English. They didn't list that he speaks terrible English, but they said he speaks English. And so we went with that one. And he did show up, and because you can't use phones in the prison, he brought a dictionary with him, and I would talk with my lawyer using a dictionary because I
Jesus
spoke
Christ.
bad Russian, he spoke bad English, and somehow we worked it out.
Wow.
But he's a really nice guy. I'd ask for like books to read in the prison, and he'd bring them. He'd bring me like water and like other snacks and stuff every other day.
Did you ask for specific books, or you just asked for like books?
Yeah, I asked for like I had to like just think off the top of my head of like novels. So I asked for like The Catcher in the Rye and like stuff. I was like, yeah, maybe I'll reread that.
Yeah.
Haven't read it since high school.
You can read Mao's like little red book. Or, like,
Right,
I'm just being a good
right.
comrade here in my cell, and just studying up on.
Right. Yeah. I don't know if Lenin had a book like that, but
Yeah.
yeah, and then he would just tell me about like the appeals we could do, and then we eventually did do these appeals. And every time there was an appeal, they would take me out of the cell and they'd put handcuffs on me. They'd put me in like a police van and take me to the court. And that was terrible too, because it's just like humiliating. You know, you're just brought out in front of all these people and they're looking at me. Yeah, and they're just thinking, "Oh, look at this criminal over here."
Yeah, in our fucking country, like.
Yeah, yeah. No, and every time the lawyer, because these cases were ridiculous, it was obvious they were fake crimes. The lawyer would win the first appeal, like because I think at this one court, they had no connection to like the sham trial from before, so they just look at it and be like, "Oh, this is obviously ridiculous." And then what happens when you win an appeal in Russia is you have to go and redo the same trial again. So we'd go back to the same ridiculous courthouse, and then they would conclude, no, actually, he didn't show his passport, so obviously he's guilty.
Oh my god.
And
This
this
goes round and round. It's almost like made for you to be guilty.
yeah, it was like designed to be like the perfect fake crime because they even had a guy filming it at the time. And I remembered that. I was like, why is there a guy filming this if they're just trying to take me in to talk about my YouTube stuff? And they even had an interpreter there at the same time. So they had like all these bases covered to say during the trial, like, oh, you had an interpreter and blah, blah, blah. We saw you doing it. We have proof of that. So there was like no escape. And, but you're allowed to appeal like 3 times. And so it actually ended up being that the second appeal was scheduled for like the day I was going to be released. Like it was the end of the 15 days.
Oh my god.
So
You just canceled it, or?
no, I said, no, hell, let's do it anyway. Because like at that point, I wanted to mess with them. I'm like, I wanted to show like, hey, I'm not a criminal. Like, you know.
Right. You want to win. You want
Yeah,
to be proven
I wanted to
innocent.
have some victory.
Yeah.
So on the final day that I was supposed to be in the prison, I'm scheduled to be released at 2:00 in the afternoon. The appeal is scheduled for 9:00 in the morning. And we go
I
there.
want my 5 hours. I want my 5 hours of freedom.
Yeah, exactly. We won the appeal again, and this actually led to some weird situation where they said, technically you're free now, and you can go. But then my lawyer said, due to like some complicated legal thing in Russia, if you go free now, you won't be able to get your luggage back from the prison without staying there for like some ridiculous amount of time. So your best bet is to just go back to the prison, stay there until 2 p.m., get your luggage, and we'll try to like get you out of here, get you a visa so you can leave.
My God. Yeah, because your visa had expired, yeah?
Right, right.
Fuck that, dude. I mean, I wouldn't trust anybody at that point. I'd be like, no, they're going to have the black van there again. They're going to like frame me for something else. And
Yeah, right.
I mean, did
right.
you have any sense of relief at that point, or was it like were you still skeptical?
You can never fully believe it's going to be over. And I had like a dark feeling that they were still going to try to do something before it was all over. Again, because I had not signed a document. They try to get you to sign like it's pretty much like a self-deportation document, basically saying like you're not going to go back to Russia for 5 years. And they showed up like a couple of days before the end of the sentence trying to make me sign that document. And I said, again, because I was learning about how things work in Russia, I was like, I don't need to sign this if my lawyer's not here. So please come back when my lawyer's here. And they actually respected that, and then they left. So I was like, if I didn't sign that, they're not going to be happy about that. They're still going to try something. So
Some balls. You like saw the light at the end of the tunnel, and you like started fucking with them left and right. Like,
yeah. Kind of. I don't know where these balls come from, but I don't know. I'm a little bit crazy too.
yeah.
So
Holy
again,
shit.
we reached the very end of it. It's like 2 p.m. on the last day, and I get all my stuff. The CEOs like lead you to like the front of the prison, and there's like this big door. You can't see what's behind it. There's like these big latches and everything. And the CEO is just opening it, and you know that freedom is right behind that. And again, you can't imagine this. Behind that door, it's the same goddamn FSB officers.
Oh my God.
They're waiting there, and they're like, Thomas, come with us. We need to go to court. You need to finish your court case, because they needed to do the same case all over again because we had won the appeal. And I found out that what they're doing is, again, actually not legal in Russia. Again, they like to abuse the system. And they kept telling me, like, go with us. Go with us. We're going to take you to the courthouse. I knew that my lawyer was supposed to be coming to pick me up. So, again,
Oh my God.
I refused it. I said, I'm going to sit here and wait for him to show up. And it's a good thing that I did, because there was like 7 FSB officers waiting right outside the prison. I could only see 2 of them. They made it sound like it was going to be like a comfortable ride over there, but who knows what they would have done. I assume they were going to try to get me to sign that document or whatever.
Fuck.
But my lawyer, who was a hero, he shows up eventually, and he starts just arguing with them, like in front of like the prison and everything. And he's just like, what you're doing is not right. He whips out his phone. He starts filming them.
No way.
Yeah, this man, the balls on this man to do this in Russia.
What's his name?
Maybe we shouldn't mention his name.
Okay.
Yeah,
Alright.
I don't want to.
No, yeah.
I'm already worried about him, but he's a great guy. And
Freedom fighter, dude.
yeah.
Damn.
He told me that same day, like, Tommy, I don't want you to hate Russia because of this. I'm very upset about this too.
Yeah.
This is not the will of the Russian people.
Wow.
And that's of course what I thought. Like, and I knew that. But so
It's a will of a lot of them, though. I mean, goddamn, it sounds like there's a whole concerted effort to judges, COs, FSB guys, like
yeah. There's
it's a whole hit job on you, man.
It was. It felt very, very coordinated, and that's what the scariest part was.
Yeah.
So basically, the lawyer, after arguing with them, apparently the compromise was reached that I would have to go to this trial.
Fuck, dude.
But he said we could go in my lawyer's car. I wouldn't have to be brought in the police van. So we go over there, and I was planning to leave Russia that day. I already had plane tickets bought. A close friend of mine had actually come to Russia and helped me with it, a close friend from China. And we were going to leave. We're going to go to the nearest big city, which is called Khabarovsk. It was like 2 hours away. But then this trial just took up like the whole day. It was like 6 hours, and it just messed up everything. And then this time, the police brought like 4 witnesses. They brought like every possible person. Some of these people were not even at the scene of the crime, and they were like testifying. There was like a guy from the police jail who said like, "Oh yes, I saw him go into a cell and everything." And once again, even though my lawyer started the trial by showing this video of the police pretty much admitting that it was a fake crime, this judge, who was the same judge from the very first trial, again handed down a guilty verdict. And
How did that feel?
it well, when I found that out, and again, I don't know if my lawyer managed to disrupt the process somehow by doing this, but before the sentence was actually read out, because the judge took like an hour to like decide it, he said, "Hey, you need to get a new visa to leave the country. So you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna go and get that while this lady is like, making her decision." And so he took me to like this migration office to like get my current visa canceled. I had like a 3-year tourist visa, but I had overstayed the amount of days I was supposed to stay in because of prison. And I had to get a new what's called transitory visa to leave. It's almost like an exit visa, kind of. And but horrifyingly, they said like that would not be ready until the following morning, which meant I had to stay in that city overnight. And I was actually stateless at this point because I had like no visa. So I tried to go into a hotel and they said, "You don't have a visa, so you can't stay here."
And you're like, oh, dude, I would be like, oh, now they're going to charge me with being here without a visa.
Right.
Now they're going to come storming in and be like, well, where's your visa? And they're filming. And
the paranoia is everywhere. So thankfully, again, my lawyer, this awesome guy, he said, "Hey, I have a friend. He has like one of those Airbnb things, but like a Russian Airbnb. Just pay him and you can stay in that apartment." And that's what we did.
Wow, lawyer came through again.
Yeah. I considered it like a safe house.
Yeah.
It was like an apartment, a random apartment. Like, there's no way the police could find it. And it's just, I had the worst nightmares of my life, like that night. Like, I had like 3 of them. I just kept getting woken up over and over again. Like that they were going to like break down the door and like come in and, just invent some new thing. Like, "Hey, we just discovered that this new law about spying and blah, blah, blah. We're going to take you back to the prison.
We just passed it today, 2 hours ago.
Yeah, this was all a sham. Like, so we needed you to stay an extra night so we can get the documents ready."
Fuck, dude. So if you didn't appeal the case, you could have left earlier?
I don't really know, to be honest.
Yeah, because you might have still had the issue with the visa then.
Yeah, I think probably either way there would have been this issue with the visa, I think.
Fuck, it's terrifying. It's like this is like a scared straight story. Like anytime I go abroad to like a semi-dangerous place, my mom's like, "Well, you hear about what they do to people and such. You hear about this. They're looking for an excuse." And this is like you're like a living example of that. You should talk in schools.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, maybe give some speeches.
Like don't go
hit the circuit.
Yeah. So I'm assuming you're never gonna go back to Russia.
At this moment, I would say until things heavily change in Russia, no.
Yeah.
Which is a real shame. I actually had an enjoyable time in Russia up until this happened. Most Russian people are actually really awesome. They're very kind. They're like generous in a way that other people in Europe are not. There's so many people that'll just give you stuff, invite you to shots and food. They have this thing, I think, that goes back to like the Soviet culture where people will just invite you into their house. They'll be like, "Hey, yeah, come in," whatever. You're a complete stranger, but they'll just be like, "Oh, yeah, you want some tea?"
Oh, that's really nice. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah, Russian people are awesome. It's just they have a horrible, horrible government and police force, which has just needlessly put them against the world.
Fucking hell.
Yeah. Anyway,
Damn.
So this finally ends. The very next morning, we wake up early. We go to this migration office, and my heart is pumping just the entire time. I'm like, at any moment, these FSB are going to show up again.
Yeah.
I finally get the visa in my passport, this transitory visa, and the lawyer is there, and he says, "Thomas, just take this to the airport, and you can go. You can leave Russia." And I immediately just, they have like their own Uber. It's called Yandex. And I booked like a 2-hour taxi ride to get to the big city. The taxi driver showed up, and I thought he was saying that because like the original price was like $50. I thought he was saying like, this is too little. I'm gonna charge you $200. And I was like, I don't care. I'll pay you $2,000. Just get me to the airport. Turns out he was only asking for $20 more, but I really did not care at that point. And it's just, it's tense the entire time. You know, like we're driving, we're making this 2-hour drive, and at one point you see like a bunch of cars stopped and there's a line. And I immediately start thinking, oh, this is like a police check. They're like looking for me or something.
Oh my God.
But it was just like a train crossing. They're waiting for the train to pass.
You're like, go, go, go,
Yeah,
go, go,
yeah.
go.
This is literally what I'm thinking the entire time.
Don't stop the fucking car.
Yeah. I knew I would not be comfortable until I was literally on the plane leaving that country.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we finally get to the airport in that city, Khabarovsk. And it's tense until like the very last moment because I now had this weird visa in my passport. Plus, I had a visa saying that my old visa was canceled. The customs check, the passport officer she started off very friendly. She's like, "Oh, your Russian is very good."
You're like, I've been practicing for 19 days.
Right, yeah. I couldn't explain why it had gotten so good. Then she looked down at my passport, saw like the canceled visa, and she immediately adopted that like nasty Russian look. Like her whole expression changed. I'll never forget it. And then she's just, for like 15 agonizing minutes, she's just typing on a computer right in front of me. And I have no idea what she's doing. Like I'm just imagining every worst case scenario. Like she's just alerting the police to like come here and take me back. And after 15 minutes, finally, she goes back to the smile and she gives me the passport. And I'm allowed to finally get on this flight going to a city in China I had never heard of called Jiangsu. It was, I believe, a special flight that was for these Chinese workers that had gone to Russia to build an oil and gas plant. And they were now going home. The project was finished. And I was just there, the only white guy on this flight. Stood out quite a bit.
Yeah.
And
like a prison beard, I'm sure.
I had a huge beard, man. I really looked like a homeless guy. It was rough. Finally got on the flight, and I'm like imagining like these crazy movies where the police come after you even after you're on the flight.
Right.
And I did not finally celebrate until the plane was in the air, and then once it did, raised my fist. It was a really quick flight. It was like 50 minutes. It was literally just a flight taking you over the river, the Amur River that separates China from Russia. And we touched down there, and I took like a photo that I've been showing around. It was like my first moment of freedom, ironically in China. There's never been a happier American to land in China. And that's how bad shit. Russia has messed up. They've made China look like a bastion of freedom.
Yeah. Damn. So what did it feel like when you finally landed? Like, did like relief just wash over you? And
the feeling is incomparable. Like you can't imagine like a happier feeling. And I'm trying to think of like something in my life that's similar. I don't know, maybe being like in love or something. But this is still better. It's just.
Yeah, you thought your life was over.
Right. Yeah. For like a week afterward, and anything that seemed like a trivial issue, I just did not care about. Like being stuck in traffic, or just somebody honking at you, or just I don't know, Chinese people talking loud on the train or something. I'm just like, none of this matters. I'm free, and you don't appreciate freedom until it is taken from you.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So, please don't go to Russia. Especially if you're American.
Are you going to take less risks when you travel now? Because I remember before you were like, yeah, let's go. You're pretty much down to go anywhere. You went to fucking Congo, for God's sake. Or Central African Republic.
It was Congo.
Congo, yeah.
The first time.
Yeah.
I don't know why I have these urges. I think it's just the curiosity in me. I want to see everywhere.
Yeah.
And I don't like being told I can't go somewhere. I know that's not the right mentality sometimes, but I believe like in the inherent good of most people, and I'm like, I just know that governments are the problem. But, with that said, I'm going to calm it down just a bit.
Yeah.
I think for a year. I think I've had over the past 4 years, like a lifetime of life and death situations, a lifetime of adventures. So I'm not gonna go and start making like videos of me sitting on a beach at a resort, but we're gonna
Yeah.
stay away from the war zones and crazy
Yeah.
areas for maybe a little bit.
Oh shit. Yeah, I mean, there's so many good adventurous places you don't need to risk, your safety for. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, governments are like the number one scary thing because I feel like with people you can at least reason with them, but if there's this whole government machinery used to oppress you, that's like, what can you do? I mean, this is like everyone's worst nightmare when they're traveling, dude.
right,
You
right.
know?
I mean, you worry about gangs, but the Russian government is the ultimate gang, you know, and they literally run the country like a mafia. So,
That's fucking crazy.
yeah.
Did you? So that your cellmate? Did you make friends with him? You guys were like tight.
Yeah, we still talk. He drunkenly called me the other day.
He got drunk in prison.
No, he wasn't in prison anymore. He's out.
Oh,
Yeah.
wait, he was in for 6 years and he just got out.
That was like his previous sentence.
Oh,
And this time he was in for like 10 days for, to be honest, I didn't quite understand what he was in for, but I think he was supposed to show up for like a court or something, and then he just didn't do it.
Mm,
You know, just some random, probably trivial offense.
yeah. Did the guards like, were they like abusive? Did they like beat people and shit? Because I heard they do that in American prisons.
Right. I did not see any of that, thankfully. And yeah, nobody attacked me.
Are people doing drugs in there?
No,
No?
it's impossible to get drugs in there. I mean, maybe it's possible, but
Yeah.
I don't know. That's another level of Russian prison knowledge,
Yeah.
I guess.
What about cigs? People smoking cigs in there?
There were a lot of cigs.
How did you not smoke in there, dude? That's like the perfect excuse to smoke cigarettes. Like,
Right. I know. Yeah. And both the CEOs and the prisoners were chain smoking. I was almost tempting because, it's like literally peer pressure. But
yeah.
I don't know.
Fuck, what did you do to relieve stress in there? Like, what did you do to pass the time? Like, other than read the dictionary? Like, because you got that after 8 days, right?
Right. Yeah. For the first like week, that interpreter from the original town, the small town with the jail, I told her like, hey, do you have any books you can give me? I'm going to be very bored in the jail. And then she went and brought me a fourth grade English textbook because it had a Russian vocabulary list in the back, and she knew I could like learn from that. She brought like a comic book, which was in Russian, but it had pictures, so I could just look at the pictures. Like, ooh, this is fun.
Stupid little American, you like those pictures?
Yeah.
But what did you do before that? Like, what were you? I guess you had your phone for a little bit, and then you just lay
No,
there and stare at the ceiling?
I
Like,
never had the phone in the cell. But that English textbook and the comic book I had from the beginning.
oh.
Yeah. That interpreter, shout out to her. And also, I believe this guy was in the FSB also, but he was like the FSB from that small town. They kept telling me like, we believe you. We know that you're not actually a criminal. We don't think you're a spy or anything. Just be patient. You're gonna get out of here. And they tried to do whatever they could to like make things better. They would bring me like food. They brought me like some candy bars and stuff.
Yeah.
They didn't have to do that, but they did.
When did the fear of you getting poisoned go away? Was that like just a first day kind of jitters thing, or did that like?
I couldn't really eat for like the first 3 days in like the prison. Part of it was that fear of being poisoned, but the other part was just I had no appetite.
Yeah, how could you? I mean,
Yeah.
and they were serving you what, like boiled eggs and fucking toast?
Yeah. Some like weird rice and like grinded meat dishes. The only decent thing, they had like a soup that they would give you every lunch, and then you could take like your hard bread and put it in there.
Was there like a mess hall, or did you just eat in your room?
You had to eat in your room.
And then, so the only time you leave your room is to go on your phone.
Yeah, that or go walk around in a cage outside for like your rec time.
So it's literally like you were. Oh no, you had a cellmate. I was gonna say it's like solitary confinement, but
Pretty much. I mean, half the time it was solitary confinement.
fuck, dude.
Yeah, because my cellmate left before me, like 7 days before.
How are you still like? I mean, did it fuck you up? Like, are you? Because I mean, solitary confinement's like a torture method,
Right.
You know.
I mean, I guess it's good that I'm not like super extroverted person that needs to be talking to people all the time. Um, but no, it was not fun. Um, I mean, I spent a lot of time just lying around. Tried to meditate. Um, do whatever I could. Started going to bed at like a little after 8 p.m. You
Yeah.
know, I just wanted to like time travel. Get
Yeah,
to
of
the next
course.
day.
Yeah.
Um,
Stoic mentality. Did you do push-ups in your cell? Were you like one of those guys? Like,
um, yeah, yeah, I did like some jumping jacks and stuff.
fuck, man. That's
Yeah,
terrifying, dude.
yeah, yeah. It's rough.
It makes me not want to go to like any other shady countries.
Maybe stay away from countries with really authoritarian governments
Yeah.
that don't like America. That's the important thing.
Damn. Well, fuck, dude.
Yeah.
I
No.
feel stressed, and you just told me about it. I didn't even go through it, and I'm like, fuck, dude. I
Yeah.
feel sad.
I know. I know. I can't believe I went through it.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you made it through, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, so now we can go on more adventures.
Yeah. And I can just walk around in Japan and these
Yeah.
happier places.
So I was a little surprised that you didn't want to go home like straight away. But you texted me and you're like, no, I just want to keep traveling. And I'm like, really? Because the first thing I would want to do is just like cry like in my mother's arms. But you're like, no, I'll just keep doing the same thing.
Right, right. Um, yeah. I mean, I tried to get my family to like fly over or whatever. I have like a lot of good friends, some of my best friends that live in Asia. Some are in Thailand, so I went down there. Um, it's yeah, it's like I knew I'd be back home sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
I really don't like flying over the Pacific Ocean. It's like a
Yeah.
very long flight. The jet lag is awful.
Mhm.
I don't deal with jet lag well. It takes me
Mm.
like for every hour of jet lag, it takes me like that amount of time and days to
Mm.
get over it. So like 12-hour difference, 12 days. I'm like,
Yeah,
ugh.
that's fucked.
Yeah, but I explained to my family, and like I kept having like these moments where I felt like I wanted to cry. Like thinking like, "Fuck, I'm free." Like I
Yeah.
avoided all that. And again, I'm so lucky that I don't have a brain that's like prone to PTSD because I'm sure if I did,
Yeah.
this would mess me up for like a long time.
Holy shit, man.
Yeah. But I will be going home. We're in Japan right now.
Uh-huh.
I'll be going home in just a few short weeks or maybe even next week.
How good does it feel to be in Japan? Like
And I'll go hug my mom.
filming, like no problems, like very free nation.
It's wonderful. Wonderful. I already thought Japan was one of the greatest, if not the greatest nations on earth.
Yeah.
Um, it's great.
Yeah.
It's great.
Dude, I'm glad you made it out, man. We were worried about you. We were like, because you messaged me and you're like, oh, like, get me a sit down with like someone in the media, or you were like, oh, contact the news outlets, and I was like, news outlets? How the fuck am I gonna do that? Like, I was all game for it, but I was like, what's the game plan here? How do I was like prepared for, I don't even know. Like, it could have been a lot worse, is all I'm trying to say. So I'm really glad you
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, again, you can't prepare for that situation.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, like, if they're going to make me into, like, Brittany Griner, I want to make sure that people know I'm here.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thankfully, it didn't come to that.
Yeah. Cool, man. Well, I think that's it. You got anything else?
No, just, again, don't go to Russia. Please, just leave it for, like, a few years.
Yeah.
Even if you're very adventurous. Unless you want to go there and do propaganda. Just please don't go there. Okay? I love the Russian people. Just not the government. And please don't no-joke me.
All right, I think we'll end it there.
Yeah.
Nice. Good
Good.
shit, man. Thank you, dude.